John Carter stood on the observation deck of the United Nations orbital station, staring at the massive ships that had appeared above Earth without warning. The ships were enormous, black and silver, with strange glowing lights that pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat from some giant creature. For weeks the world had watched them silently hover over the planet, unmoving yet terrifying in their presence. No one knew where they had come from, and the messages they broadcasted, in 1,000 languages, made it clear that they were not here to negotiate. The holographic projection of the High Council of the Orion Empire appeared before the leaders of Earth. Their faces were alien, with sharp angles and glowing eyes, and their voices were cold and commanding. Submission, they demanded. Join the Empire or face total destruction. Governments around the world met in panic. Military leaders debated, politicians argued, and ordinary people stared at the skies, unsure whether to flee or hide. John watched in disbelief as the representatives of Earth argued. Some called for immediate surrender, thinking it might save lives, while others, like Commander Laura Mitchell, argued that humanity could not bow to alien rulers. Laura was determined, fierce, and unafraid. She had spent her life preparing for emergencies, though nothing like this. She organized the newly formed Earth Defense Coalition, bringing together military forces from all nations. Every pilot, soldier, and strategist was called to the task. In secret labs underground, scientists worked around the clock. Daniel Price, a brilliant physicist, and engineer Lily Morgan examined fragments of alien technology left behind in small skirmishes on the edges of Earth's orbit. They hoped to understand even a fraction of it, to find weaknesses they could exploit. Every day brought new discoveries, new dangers, and new ideas. They knew they were running out of time, yet they refused to give in. Meanwhile, intelligence officer Karen Ellis intercepted communications from the Empire. The aliens spoke with confidence, assuming humanity was predictable and weak. But Karen knew better. Humans were clever, stubborn, and willing to take risks no other species would consider. She sent warnings to commanders across the planet, preparing them for the first clashes in orbit. Small satellites armed with experimental weapons were launched, not to destroy, but to test the Empire's defenses. People on the ground were nervous, but also united in a way never seen before. Civilians volunteered in factories, producing supplies and equipment. Families donated their knowledge, their skills, their courage. Even children understood that life on Earth had changed forever. Hope grew alongside fear. Everyone knew the odds were against them, yet everyone felt that survival depended on refusing to submit. The first skirmishes in orbit shocked the Empire. Small human ships darted between the massive alien vessels, attacking and disappearing before the aliens could respond. John watched the reports with pride and disbelief. Humanity had survived the first encounter without a single city destroyed. The alien commanders were confused, angry, and frustrated. They had expected fear, not defiance. On Earth, leaders debated the next steps. Some argued for diplomacy, sending emissaries to negotiate peace, while others, like Laura and Daniel, pushed for preparation, for building a fleet capable of resisting. John knew that both sides were right in a way. Diplomacy might save lives, but preparation would save the planet. Humanity had to be ready for anything. Months passed, and Earth began to adapt. Cities built underground shelters, spaceports prepared for evacuation, and new weapons were tested in orbit. John worked alongside scientists and military strategists, coordinating efforts, making decisions that could mean life or death for millions. Every day brought new challenges, but also new hope. Every small victory, every clever maneuver, reminded humanity that they were not powerless. In secret, Laura Mitchell trained pilots and soldiers for missions that would push them to the limits. They learned to use human ingenuity to compensate for smaller ships and fewer weapons. Every strategy relied on speed, surprise, and intelligence. Human crews were brave and smart, willing to risk everything to protect their home. Their courage inspired others across the world to believe that victory was possible. Meanwhile, Karen Ellis uncovered a critical piece of information. The Empire's command structure was rigid, slow, and overconfident. They assumed that no planet could resist them for long. This arrogance was humanity's advantage. John and the commanders realized that they could fight not by matching the Empire's power, but by outthinking it. Every mission, every plan was built on the principle of unpredictability. By the end of the first year, humanity had not surrendered. Small victories in space had sent a message that Earth would not kneel. The Empire, which had intended to show strength and demand obedience, now faced an enemy that was clever, resourceful, and united. People on the planet celebrated quietly, knowing the war was only beginning, but also knowing that hope and determination were more powerful than fear. John Carter looked out at the alien ships once more, their glowing lights still pulsing over Earth. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also a growing confidence. Humanity had been underestimated, and that underestimation was their greatest weapon. The planet was ready. The people were ready. And when the time came, Earth would answer with fire. Even in the darkest hours, the human spirit burned brightly. Families huddled together. Children learned to help in factories and shelters. Soldiers trained tirelessly. And scientists worked without rest. Humanity was learning that survival was not just about weapons or strategy, but about courage, unity, and refusing to be controlled. The Empire might have demanded submission, but Earth had chosen defiance. That choice would shape the battles to come and send ripples across the galaxy. John Carter, Laura Mitchell, Daniel Price, Karen Ellis, and countless others knew that the days ahead would be the hardest in history, yet they also knew that humanity had a chance to prove its worth. And so Earth waited, watched, and prepared. For the first time, the planet was truly united. Fear was tempered with hope, despair with courage, and the knowledge that they would not give in to an alien empire. The stage was set, and humanity had begun its journey toward a fire that would one day shake the galaxy. Humanity had survived the first encounters with the Empire, but survival was only the beginning. John Carter watched the reports coming from orbit, seeing how small human ships were able to dodge the massive vessels of the aliens. It was inspiring, but everyone knew that victories so far were minor. The real war had just begun. Commander Laura Mitchell moved quickly to prepare Earth for the battles to come. She gathered pilots, soldiers, and engineers, organizing them into teams that could work together across continents and in space. Every human involved learned the same lesson. The Empire was powerful, but it could be outsmarted. Laura believed in human ingenuity and refused to rely on fear or intimidation. She trained the pilots to think fast, act boldly, and expect the unexpected. In underground laboratories, Daniel Price and engineer Lily Morgan worked on creating ships that could fight the Empire on equal footing. They combined human technology with the alien fragments they had recovered, testing energy shields, new propulsion systems, and weapons that could penetrate the thick armor of the alien ships. Days and nights blurred together as they experimented, failed, and tried again. Each small success became a building block for the future of humanity. On the intelligence side, Karen Ellis monitored the Empire constantly. She discovered patterns in their communication and noted that their leaders underestimated humans at every level. They believed that fear alone could control a planet, not understanding that humans could act unpredictably. Karen sent her findings to Laura and John Carter, helping them plan strategies that would exploit these weaknesses. Every intercepted message gave humanity a slight advantage, and they used it carefully. Civilians were not idle either. Factories worked around the clock to produce parts, drones, and weapons for the fleet. Volunteers of all ages contributed in whatever way they could. Even children helped in small ways, learning about science, technology, and survival. People understood that their planet depended on everyone working together. This unity strengthened the resolve of every soldier, pilot, and scientist. The first real test of Earth's new fleet came when the Empire attempted a raid near the outer orbital station. Captain Ryan Cole led a squadron of ships into the path of the massive alien vessels. Using speed and clever tactics, the human ships struck the enemy in multiple locations and vanished before the aliens could respond. The skirmish did not destroy the Empire, but it sent a powerful message. Humans would fight, and they would fight intelligently. On the ground, the leaders of Earth debated the next steps. Some still wanted to find a peaceful solution, but Laura and John argued that preparation and action were necessary. They had learned from the first encounters that the Empire respected strength and intelligence, not words. Humanity had to build its power quietly, without panic, but with determination. Every meeting, every plan, every training session contributed to the growing strength of the planet. The morale of humans began to rise with each success. Even small victories in space gave hope to the people below. News of pilots like Ryan Cole and engineers like Lily Morgan inspired countless others. Soldiers trained harder, scientists worked longer hours, and civilians contributed wherever they could. Earth was becoming a planet united, focused on one goal: survival and victory. During this time, the first attempts to combine human and alien technology showed promise. Ships built with both types of systems could move faster, shoot farther, and survive longer in battle. Engineers tested energy shields and weapons that could pierce the armor of enemy ships. The work was difficult and failures were common, but humanity refused to quit. Each failure taught something new, and each new invention increased Earth's chances of winning. Laura Mitchell organized mock battles to train the fleet. She created simulations of alien tactics and had pilots practice responses. Soldiers learned to operate in space as well as on the ground, and civilians learned how to maintain equipment and manage supply lines. The planet was being transformed into a war-ready society, but one that remained compassionate and determined. Fear existed, but it was matched by courage and hope. John Carter worked with Karen Ellis to create strategies that relied on human unpredictability. They planned ambushes, traps, and surprise attacks that could exploit the arrogance of the Empire. Every plan depended on timing, coordination, and intelligence. Humans were small compared to the massive alien fleet, but they were smart, adaptable, and willing to take risks that the Empire could not anticipate. The first major coordinated operation took months to plan. It involved multiple fleets, drones, and ground support. Pilots like Jackson Hayes and Sophie Turner prepared to execute maneuvers that had never been attempted before. Engineers synchronized weapons and communication systems, while intelligence officers monitored the enemy for every signal. The operation required absolute trust, coordination, and bravery from everyone involved. When the operation finally began, it exceeded expectations. Small human ships attacked in waves, striking weak points and retreating before the Empire could mount a counterattack. Drones disabled critical systems on the enemy ships, and pilots executed daring maneuvers that kept them out of danger. Even though losses were suffered, the Empire had never encountered such a coordinated and clever strike. Humans had proven that they could fight intelligently, and they had inflicted more damage than expected. The Empire responded, sending larger forces and attempting to adapt their strategies. Yet every move they made was countered by human ingenuity. Laura Mitchell and her team predicted many of their tactics, using both technology and intuition to keep Earth one step ahead. Humanity learned quickly from each engagement, improving tactics, upgrading ships, and increasing efficiency in production. Even as the war in space escalated, life on Earth continued. Families learned to live with constant tension, yet they remained committed to the effort. Children studied technology and strategy. Volunteers worked in production, and soldiers trained relentlessly. Humanity had discovered a new strength: unity. Every citizen contributed, knowing that their actions could save lives and protect the planet. John Carter often reflected on the journey so far. Humanity had been tested, and the first lessons had been harsh but enlightening. The planet was no longer divided by petty disputes or fear. It was a single organism driven by courage, intelligence, and the will to survive. Each small victory in space and on the ground gave humans more confidence. They had learned that they were not powerless, and that the Empire could be challenged with determination and cleverness. As the months passed, Earth's leaders and military commanders prepared for the next stage of the war. Ships were upgraded, pilots were trained in new maneuvers, and scientists worked on weapons that would give humanity an edge. John Carter and Laura Mitchell coordinated every effort, knowing that the survival of millions depended on their decisions. They had learned that the Empire respected only strength and creativity, and they intended to provide both. Civilians remained inspired by the courage of soldiers, pilots, and scientists. Every small success was celebrated, and every failure became a lesson. Hope and determination spread across the planet. People were no longer just surviving. They were preparing to fight back. The Empire had demanded submission, but Earth was learning to answer with strategy, skill, and fire. By the end of the second year, humanity had grown stronger than ever. Ships were faster, weapons were deadlier, and soldiers were braver. Pilots like Ryan Cole, Jackson Hayes, and Sophie Turner had become legends, inspiring others to act with courage and intelligence. Scientists like Daniel Price and Lily Morgan had created systems that gave humans an edge against overwhelming odds. Intelligence officers like Karen Ellis ensured that every move of the Empire could be anticipated. John Carter looked at the planet below, knowing that the real battles were still ahead. Humanity had survived its first encounters, but now it was time to show that they could fight back in ways the Empire could not imagine. Earth was no longer just a planet waiting for judgment. It was a force to be reckoned with. Every citizen, every soldier, every scientist had a role to play. And so the people of Earth continued their work. Ships flew, weapons were tested, intelligence networks monitored the enemy, and civilians contributed in countless ways. Humanity had chosen defiance over submission, and each day brought new proof that they could survive, adapt, and eventually triumph. The fire of resistance was growing, and when the next battle came, Earth would be ready. The first major strike against the Empire had shown humanity what it was capable of, but it was only the beginning. Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett studied the maps and intelligence reports in her command center, thinking about the next move. The Empire was powerful, their ships enormous and heavily armed, yet every encounter had revealed a weakness. Humans were fast, clever, and unpredictable, and Claire intended to use those qualities to the fullest. Captain Ryan Cole and his squadron prepared for another operation. They had grown in skill and confidence, but they also knew the dangers were greater than ever. The Empire had learned from its previous defeats and was ready to retaliate. Still, humans had something the aliens could not understand: courage, creativity, and the will to survive at any cost. On the ground, Commander Laura Mitchell coordinated supply lines and reinforcements. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, testing new weapons and refining tactics. Daniel Price monitored energy output and weapon efficiency, while Lily Morgan guided pilots through simulations that mimicked alien maneuvers. Every detail mattered and every person contributed. Humans were learning that survival depended on cooperation, intelligence, and quick thinking. The first real battle in this new phase began near a series of orbital platforms the Empire had tried to capture. Pilots like Jackson Hayes and Sophie Turner flew small, agile ships, striking fast and retreating before the enemy could respond. Drones equipped with experimental weapons disabled enemy shields, and human tactics created confusion in the alien fleet. Even though losses occurred, the humans had achieved far more than anyone thought possible. On Earth, civilians continued their work. Factories produced spare parts, engineers repaired damaged ships, and volunteers coordinated logistics. Every contribution mattered, and people understood that the planet's survival depended on everyone playing a role. Hope spread across cities and towns, and even in the darkest hours, humans felt that they could win. The Empire responded with overwhelming force, sending waves of massive ships to crush human positions. But humanity had learned to adapt. Captain Ryan Cole led a squadron through asteroid fields and debris, avoiding detection and striking at weak points in the enemy formation. Every maneuver was precise, every attack calculated. The aliens were frustrated and confused by human unpredictability. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Karen Ellis discovered flaws in the enemy's supply lines and command communication. She sent the information to Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett, who used it to plan ambushes and coordinated attacks. Humans were learning that intelligence could be as powerful as weapons. Every message intercepted, every pattern analyzed gave them an edge. On the front lines, soldiers like Marcus Reed and Emily Wright risked their lives to sabotage alien installations. Small teams infiltrated stations, planting explosives and gathering vital information. Their bravery inspired others to fight harder, to push beyond fear and doubt. Humanity was proving that courage could overcome even the most technologically advanced enemy. As the war progressed, Earth's fleet grew stronger. Ships built with reverse-engineered alien technology could now survive hits that would have destroyed them before. Weapons were more powerful, shields more efficient, and pilots more skilled. Humans had turned desperation into opportunity, learning faster than the Empire expected. The psychological effect on the aliens was significant. They had expected submission, but instead faced an enemy that was clever, daring, and coordinated. The arrogance of the Empire was being challenged for the first time, and whispers of doubt began to spread among their commanders. Humanity had shown that even a single planet could disrupt their carefully planned dominance. In one daring mission, Captain Ryan Cole led a strike team deep into enemy territory. Using stealth and misdirection, they disabled key power generators on an orbital fortress. Drones followed programmed paths to attack shields and communication systems, creating chaos. The Empire's fleet struggled to respond. and human pilots used the confusion to escape unharmed. The victory was small in numbers but enormous in significance. Back on Earth, John Carter observed the growing unity and determination. Nations that had once been divided now worked together seamlessly. People volunteered, contributed resources, and supported each other in ways that had never been seen before. Humanity had become a single organism, focused on survival and victory. Every citizen understood that their actions mattered, that courage and intelligence could tip the balance against a far stronger enemy. As weeks passed, the battles continued. Captain Sophie Turner executed daring attacks, using new weapons developed by Lily Morgan. Pilots learned to rely on instinct as well as training, improvising when unexpected situations arose. Engineers repaired ships under fire, and soldiers adapted to alien strategies in ways the Empire could not predict. Humans had become a force defined not by size or strength but by ingenuity and resilience. The Empire grew desperate. They sent larger fleets and tried to anticipate human tactics, but humans had learned to think ahead, to act unpredictably, and to turn weaknesses into advantages. Each battle taught new lessons, and humans applied them quickly. They were becoming more than defenders. They were innovators, fighters, and strategists. Meanwhile, morale on Earth soared. Reports of successful missions inspired people everywhere. Children watched the news and dreamed of joining the effort when they were old enough. Families worked together. Civilians contributed knowledge and skills, and soldiers gained confidence in their leaders and in each other. Humanity had discovered a new strength: unity and determination under pressure. Commander Laura Mitchell and Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett coordinated the next stage of operations. They planned attacks that combined speed, intelligence, and surprise. Every team knew its role, and trust between units grew stronger with each success. Humans had learned that coordination and planning were just as important as bravery. By the end of this phase, humanity had inflicted significant losses on the Empire. Alien ships were destroyed, supply lines disrupted, and command stations damaged. More importantly, the psychological impact was profound. The Empire had assumed that no planet could resist them, but humans had proven otherwise. Fear and caution spread among their commanders, and the galaxy began to take notice of Earth's growing power. John Carter reflected on the progress. Humanity had started as a frightened, divided species facing a powerful enemy. Now, through courage, ingenuity, and unity, they had become a force that could challenge even the mightiest fleets. Each citizen, soldier, and scientist had played a part in this transformation. Every victory, no matter how small, strengthened the spirit of the planet. Even as the Empire planned its next moves, humanity continued to grow stronger. Ships were upgraded, pilots trained in new techniques, and engineers developed more advanced weapons. Every mission was a learning experience, and every success inspired more confidence. Humans had turned survival into a path toward dominance, proving that they were not just a species to be conquered, but a power to be reckoned with. And so, Earth continued to fight. Pilots flew daring missions, soldiers infiltrated enemy positions, engineers built weapons, and civilians contributed wherever they could. Humanity had embraced defiance and learned to answer fear with courage. The Empire had demanded submission, but Earth was learning to answer with fire. The galaxy watched as humanity's reputation grew. What had begun as small skirmishes had become a campaign of ingenuity and resistance. Humans were not merely surviving. They were thriving in ways that the Empire could not understand. The battles were far from over, but the seeds of victory had been planted. Humanity had discovered its true strength: courage, intelligence, and unity. These qualities had carried them through the first major phase of the war and would sustain them through the challenges ahead. As John Carter looked at the stars, he knew that Earth was ready to face whatever came next. The fire of human defiance had awakened, and it would not be extinguished. Earth had proven that it could fight back, but the war was far from over. The Empire was furious, its arrogance shattered by human ingenuity and courage. Commander Laura Mitchell and Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett studied intelligence reports noting that colonies and planets under the Empire's control were beginning to question their loyalty. Human victories had inspired hope, and rebel movements were growing quietly across the galaxy. John Carter watched as reports came in from distant systems. Ships once thought invincible had been destroyed, supply lines disrupted, and alien commanders frustrated by human unpredictability. The Empire had expected submission but instead faced a species that was clever, coordinated, and willing to risk everything. This realization was spreading panic among their ranks, and Earth intended to exploit it. On the ground, civilians continued to contribute. Factories produced more drones, ships, and weapons. Engineers repaired damaged vessels, and volunteers coordinated logistics. Even children learned the importance of strategy and resourcefulness. Every person had a role, and the planet moved as a single, united organism. Humanity's strength lay not in its weapons alone, but in its cooperation and determination. Commander Laura Mitchell and Daniel Price developed a daring plan to strike at the Empire's command hub. The station was heavily fortified and deep in contested space, but if humanity could disable it, the balance of power would shift. Pilots and soldiers trained for weeks, learning every possible maneuver and contingency. Every detail mattered, from the timing of attacks to the coordination between fleets and ground forces. Captain Ryan Cole, Jackson Hayes, and Sophie Turner led the strike teams. They flew small, agile ships capable of high-speed maneuvers, while drones attacked shields and communication arrays. Engineers and scientists like Lily Morgan and Daniel Price guided the mission from Earth, providing real-time updates and adjusting strategies as the battle unfolded. Every participant understood that the mission was dangerous but necessary. The operation began with a coordinated strike on outer defense stations. Human ships approached quietly, avoiding detection, and launched surprise attacks. Drones disabled power generators and communication systems, creating confusion in the enemy fleet. The alien commanders struggled to respond, and the human teams used the chaos to infiltrate the station itself. On board the station, small teams of soldiers, including Marcus Reed and Emily Wright, worked quickly to plant explosives and disable critical systems. They faced resistance, but their training, courage, and determination allowed them to overcome obstacles. Every success strengthened the morale of the human forces, proving that bravery and intelligence could overcome even the most formidable defenses. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Karen Ellis monitored enemy responses. She intercepted communications, predicted movements, and coordinated reinforcements. Every step of the mission relied on precision and timing. Humans had learned that strategy, information, and adaptability could be as powerful as weapons. The battle raged for hours, with human pilots striking repeatedly and withdrawing before the aliens could mount a counterattack. Jackson Hayes and Sophie Turner executed daring maneuvers that disabled key systems, while Ryan Cole led attacks on enemy ships attempting to intervene. Engineers on Earth guided the fleet, adjusting tactics in real time to exploit every weakness discovered. Eventually, the human team succeeded. Explosives detonated, critical systems failed, and the command hub was rendered inoperative. The Empire's forces were thrown into disarray, unable to coordinate effectively. Humanity had achieved a decisive victory, one that would be remembered across the galaxy. Even though some lives were lost, the operation proved that humans could challenge the Empire directly and succeed. Back on Earth, celebrations were quiet, but heartfelt. People understood the cost of victory, but they also recognized its importance. Families hugged, soldiers were honored, and the planet's unity strengthened. Every citizen had contributed in some way, from producing weapons to supporting soldiers, and the collective effort had paid off. The psychological impact on the Empire was profound. They had expected fear and obedience, but instead faced a species that was clever, resourceful, and fearless. Commanders began to doubt themselves, and whispers of rebellion spread among the planets they controlled. Humanity had not just survived. It had inspired hope and change across the galaxy. As the dust settled, Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett and Commander Laura Mitchell planned the next stage of operations. The Empire would recover, but humans now had proven that they could strike decisively and innovate under pressure. Ships were upgraded, weapons improved, and strategies refined. Every lesson learned from the battle would be applied in the future. Civilians continued to contribute to the war effort. Factories ran day and night, engineers improved designs, and volunteers maintained supply lines. Even children learned the importance of teamwork, resourcefulness, and courage. Earth had become a planet united, where every individual contributed to the defense and advancement of the species. John Carter reflected on the journey so far. Humanity had grown from a planet afraid of alien conquest to one capable of decisive strategic strikes. They had learned to adapt, innovate, and act with courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Every soldier, pilot, engineer, and civilian had played a role in this transformation. The victory at the command hub marked a turning point. Rebel movements across the galaxy gained confidence, inspired by humanity's example. Systems once subjugated by the Empire began to question their loyalty. The balance of power was shifting, and Earth had become a symbol of resistance and hope. Even as the Empire regrouped, humanity remained vigilant. Pilots trained for new maneuvers, soldiers prepared for infiltration missions, engineers developed advanced weapons, and intelligence officers monitored enemy movements. Every effort was coordinated, every person aware of their importance in the larger plan. Humanity had discovered that courage, unity, and intelligence could challenge even the mightiest forces. The fire of defiance burned brightly on Earth. Citizens understood that their planet had become a beacon of hope, not just for themselves but for others who had lived under the shadow of the Empire. Every action taken, every mission executed reinforced the idea that humans would not submit. The planet was alive with determination, and every person felt their contribution mattered. As John Carter looked at the stars, he knew the battles ahead would be harder. The Empire would return with greater force, but humans had proven their strength. The courage, ingenuity, and unity displayed in the strike on the command hub would guide them through the challenges to come. Earth had changed forever, and humanity had shown the galaxy that it would not be controlled. For the first time, humans felt truly powerful, not because of the size of their weapons or the number of their ships, but because of their ability to think, adapt, and act together. The Empire had demanded submission, but Earth had shown that fire, courage, and intelligence could challenge even the most feared forces in the galaxy. Humanity continued to prepare, learn, and grow stronger. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, scientists, and civilians all worked toward a common goal. Every victory, every innovation, and every act of bravery strengthened the planet's position. The galaxy was watching, and humans had proven that they were not a species to be ignored or underestimated. Earth was ready for the next stage of the war. The strike on the command hub had demonstrated that humans could challenge the Empire directly and succeed. But more than that, it had shown that humanity could inspire hope, unite against a common enemy, and fight with courage and intelligence that no force could easily overcome. The Empire was enraged. Its arrogance had been shattered, its command structure disrupted, and its fleets weakened by human ingenuity and courage. They gathered every ship they could, planning a final overwhelming assault on Earth. Their intention was clear: crush humanity once and for all. But the people of Earth were ready. Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett coordinated the planet's defenses with precision. Every ship, every satellite, and every orbital station was part of a single unified network. Pilots like Ryan Cole, Jackson Hayes, and Sophie Turner trained relentlessly, ready to execute maneuvers that combined speed, strategy, and surprise. Engineers and scientists ensured that weapons were at peak efficiency, shields reinforced, and drones deployed in maximum numbers. Humanity had turned preparation into an art. Commander Laura Mitchell led ground operations with calm determination. Soldiers were positioned in key locations, ready to defend critical installations. Civilians contributed wherever possible, supplying resources, maintaining equipment, and supporting the war effort. Even children learned how to assist safely, helping to maintain morale and supplies. The planet moved as one, coordinated and focused. Intelligence Officer Karen Ellis intercepted Empire communications, predicting their attacks and planning countermeasures. The aliens assumed humanity would panic, but humans had learned to remain calm under pressure. Every predicted movement was met with strategy, every assault countered with ingenuity. The Empire had underestimated human resilience and intelligence at every turn. The battle began with waves of alien ships descending toward Earth. Human pilots streaked into space, moving in coordinated patterns that confused the enemy. Drones attacked shields, disabled systems, and created openings for manned ships to strike critical points. Ryan Cole led a squadron that darted between enemy vessels, striking quickly and retreating before the aliens could respond. On the ground, soldiers including Marcus Reed and Emily Wright carried out sabotage missions against enemy landing forces. They destroyed supplies, disabled vehicles, and disrupted communications. Each act, though small alone, contributed to the larger strategy of defense and disruption. Humans were proving that courage, coordination, and adaptability could overcome even superior technology. Engineers and scientists like Daniel Price and Lily Morgan monitored every system, adjusting energy outputs, weapon targeting, and shield strength in real time. Every decision mattered, and their work saved countless lives. The humans had become a force that combined intellect, skill, and bravery in a way the Empire could not anticipate. The aliens pressed harder, sending massive fleets into Earth's orbit, but the humans had learned from every previous encounter. Pilots executed daring maneuvers, striking weak points while avoiding direct confrontation. Drones and automated systems created confusion, slowing the enemy advance. Every move was calculated, every strategy designed to exploit the arrogance and rigidity of the alien commanders. Even as casualties mounted, the people of Earth refused to yield. Civilians maintained production lines, repaired damaged ships, and assisted soldiers wherever possible. Families supported each other, communities coordinated logistics, and everyone understood that their collective effort was essential. Hope and determination burned as fiercely as any weapon. The tide of battle began to turn. Human tactics were cleverer, faster, and more adaptable than the Empire anticipated. Pilots like Sophie Turner executed complex attacks that disabled multiple enemy vessels at once. Ryan Cole led precision strikes against critical command ships, creating chaos and confusion. Every victory, no matter how small, reinforced the confidence and unity of Earth's forces. In a decisive moment, Fleet Admiral Claire Bennett coordinated a massive strike against the central alien fleet. Human ships attacked from multiple directions, exploiting weaknesses discovered by intelligence officers. Drones disabled shields, pilots struck at command ships, and soldiers on the ground prevented enemy reinforcements from landing. The Empire's attack faltered, its forces scattered and disoriented. The aliens had expected fear, not defiance. They had expected surrender, not resistance. Earth had answered with fire, courage, and unity. Ships exploded, systems failed, and the remaining alien forces were forced to retreat. Humanity had not only defended their planet, but had inflicted losses that the Empire would never forget. Back on Earth, celebrations were subdued but meaningful. People embraced each other, recognizing the sacrifices made and the victories earned. Soldiers returned to cheers and gratitude. Engineers and scientists received thanks for their tireless work, and civilians felt pride in their contributions. Humanity had survived, and it had proven its strength to the galaxy. John Carter reflected on the journey. Humanity had begun as a frightened species facing an overwhelming enemy. They had learned to fight with courage, intelligence, and unity. Every citizen had played a role, and every victory had been earned through skill, strategy, and determination. The Empire had demanded submission, but Earth had answered with fire. The psychological impact on the Empire was immense. Commanders who had once assumed victory now doubted themselves. Rumors of rebellion spread across subjugated planets, inspired by the courage and ingenuity of humans. Earth had become a symbol, not just of resistance but of hope. Humanity had shown that even a single planet could challenge the mightiest forces in the galaxy. In the days that followed, humans repaired their ships, strengthened defenses, and prepared for the future. Pilots trained, soldiers practiced, and engineers improved systems. The planet had learned a valuable lesson. Survival depended not only on weapons but on courage, intelligence, and unity. Every person from the youngest child to the oldest leader had a role to play. Even as the Empire regrouped, humans were ready. They had proven that they could defend their planet, innovate in the heat of battle, and fight with determination that no enemy could easily match. Pilots like Ryan Cole, Jackson Hayes, and Sophie Turner became legends. Soldiers like Marcus Reed and Emily Wright inspired others. Scientists like Daniel Price and Lily Morgan ensured humanity's technological edge. Civilians continued to contribute, understanding that every action mattered. Earth had changed forever. It was no longer just a planet waiting for judgment. It had become a beacon of hope and defiance, showing the galaxy that humans would not submit. Courage, unity, and intelligence had proven more powerful than fear, and humanity had learned that they could face any challenge together. John Carter looked at the stars, knowing that humanity's journey was far from over. The Empire would not surrender easily, and the galaxy would continue to test them. But humans had discovered their true strength, the ability to fight, adapt, and survive against overwhelming odds. They had chosen defiance, and they had answered with fire. The planet thrummed with life, preparation, and unity. Civilians, soldiers, scientists, and pilots all contributed to the future of humanity. Every small action, every invention, every act of bravery had made a difference. The war had shown that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most formidable enemies. As Earth looked toward the stars, humanity had proven itself. They had defended their home, inspired hope across the galaxy, and shown that no empire, no matter how powerful, could demand submission from a species willing to fight for its freedom. The fire of defiance burned brighter than ever, and humanity was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead.